where do you think Mark and I should do the live stream on a Wednesday coming up soon? Where's a good place that you, somebody who happens to watch this, would gather and join in the conversation with Mark and I? Would it be an eatery someplace where lunch is served? Should it be outside? Where can we go? In Baltimore. I mean, unless you want to fly us to Tahiti or something like that. Mexico is off limits. Okay? Just want to make sure you know that. So, President Obama's first 100 days. What do you think about it? A lot of people are saying that he's done an impressive amount of multitasking. Other people are saying he's overseeing an extreme budget. We're spending too much. I think, first of all, 100 days is not a good benchmark. Really not a good benchmark. 100 days, I think, was, and the crew can tell me if I'm correct, wasn't it President Roosevelt?
Yes.
Who signified the first 100 days as a good benchmark to measure what he had done as a president. Well, at the same time, we're talking about with FDR's administration at that point, he was doing quite a lot of multitasking, and I think the Obama administration is trying to do the same kind of thing with many different issues that are going on. We know there are 2 wars going on, an economic crisis, trying to get universal health care. That's in the woodworks. It's on the horizon somewhere. Car companies, American car builders collapsing. No more Pontiacs. I don't know if people are really, were people really checking for Pontiacs anyway? It's not like they're making the Trans Am anymore. I think they probably went wrong with the Fiero. Remember the Fiero? If you don't, you need to look that up. It was a cool car, but I think Americans can only really tolerate one fiberglass car, the Corvette. Something about the Fiero just didn't transfer well. So anyway, what are your thoughts on Obama's first 100 days? I think he's doing a good job. I think that we're seeing a level of transparency. I think we see a president who's trying to address many different issues at the same time. And, I think there's a level of honesty in him saying that, hey, you're not going to like everything I'm doing here. I am the president. I was elected. But not every decision is going to be the absolute decision. Not every decision is going to be the right decision. There are going to be mistakes somewhere. So I think that kind of candor certainly is different from what we got for the last 8 years. What do you think? I will read your comments right here, BaltimoreSun.com. You can also check out our fan page. Mark and I have a fan page on Facebook. You can check that out. We also have individual pages. Look for Troy Johnson or Marc Clarke. Or if you look for a fan page and join the fan page, look for Troy and Mark. Okay? So now you have no excuses. We're on Twitter. We're everywhere. And we're right here on the Baltimore Sun. So let's see. What else is going on today? By the way, you're going to hear a whole lot today, if you haven't been paying attention to the news, about this 100 days, the analysis. The pundits will be out in full effect trying to make sure that they put their stamp on what they think the president has done. And the other thing is that I think a lot of people need to realize is that the administration is going to manage a lot of that spin on this 100 days as well. The president is speaking in Missouri, probably right about now. I think he's in Springfield, Missouri, talking about the accomplishments and the work ahead with the first 100 days commemoration today. So they're looking for the positive spin, and obviously some people aren't. So let's talk to Captain Craig today. Captain Craig had a Fiero. Notice the operative word in this is had. H-A-D. Had a Fiero. Fiberglass on a Chevette chassis. It pretty much says it all right there. If you have owned a Pontiac, I apologize. But if you've owned a Pontiac, make sure you comment as well. I want to know, was it your favorite car? Why did you buy it? Are you going to miss the brand? I have to say, I think some of the cars that they made recently, like the G6 and the G8, were pretty good cars. But I think they probably, like a lot of American manufacturers, kind of, the quality standards kind of dipped a few years ago and they couldn't quite recover from that. The other big news that's going on is the swine flu, which is, what's it called? H1N1 something? They're trying to refer to it, and trying to not refer to it as swine flu, because what you have here is not a potential pandemic, in my opinion, of a virus. You have a pandemic of stupidity. People are overreacting to the situation. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned about the flu, but I mean, come on, it's the swine flu. They need to find out what's going on in Mexico. Why have we had the amount of deaths that we've had in Mexico? Actually, the first death that was reported in the United States was a kid who was from Mexico and was getting treatment in the United States. So the other nation, I mean, there are several nations from Canada, some places in Europe have obviously been dealing with the reported cases of swine flu. But I found an interesting article in CNN, on CNN's website, that while you get all riled up about the possibility of swine flu sweeping through and killing us all, guess what? More people die from the regular flu than swine flu. As a matter of fact, according to, I believe, the CDC, since January, in the United States, more than 13,000 people have died of complications from the good old seasonal every year flu. 13,000 people. Now we've had 150 deaths of swine flu in Mexico. Maybe about a dozen people in the United States have been sickened with swine flu. Now there are concerns. Now again, I'm not trying to make light of this, but I am saying, let's consider the facts. They're worried about the fact that swine flu is going to be harder to stop because there's not a vaccine to fight it. But there may, it's going to take a while to get that strain. But again, as the CDC says, more than 13,000 people have died from complications of good old-fashioned seasonal flu. No fewer than 800 flu-related deaths were reported in any week between January 1st and April 18th. And that's about 122 of our larger cities in the United States. So just be careful. A lot of this centers around our own things that we can control, like, I don't know, washing your hands after you go to the bathroom, washing your hands after you shake somebody's hand, Maybe if you mixed in a little bit of that, we wouldn't be dealing with this situation. So I'm just saying, obviously, if the concerns are there, if travel restrictions are talked about, I think people are being concerned about the situation, but don't buy into the hype. Just make sure you take care of yourself and keep your hands clean. And it's okay to eat pork. You cannot get swine flu from enjoying a delicious pork steak or pork chop. That's not. Huh?
Trichinosis.
Yeah, that's trichinosis. Trichinosis, I think, has the best title of a possible disease because you're already getting tricked. So anyway, swine flu. What are your comments on the swine flu? Do you have it? You can send in a message, but just don't stop by the Baltimore Sun newspaper, please. We got a comment from Big Fish. Obama's had a great 100 days. Now he has to do the same for the next 1,340. And I agree with you, Big Fish. I think he should. I like how folks that have issue with President Obama have started the clock, much like folks that had a problem with President Bush had the countdown clock on his administration. I just think that it might be, my opinion, might be a little early to pull out the, I can't wait for him to get out of there clock yet. But, Republicans. I guess since you're one short, I guess you got to find something to latch on to, as Senator Arlen Specter of Pennsylvania decides after 30, 40 years as a Republican, I'm out. I'm out of here. I'm not going to be a Republican anymore. Thank you. Goodbye. I'm a Democrat now. And the significance about that is the Democrats are now approaching that 60 vote mark that will stop a filibuster in Congress. Why is it taking so long for Minnesota to make their decision?
Sore loser.
Is that what it is? Is Jesse Ventura, does he have something to do with this? Come on, let's get this squared away. But anyway, it's significant. Arlen Specter, can we say he's kind of, to borrow from our good friend Sarah Palin, isn't he kind of mavericky sometimes? He's fiercely independent, actually has been supportive of the president with the stimulus package and this whole spending situation that we have going on this year. The Republicans are saying that Arlen Specter was out of step with the Republican Party. Really? Arlen Specter says that the Republican Party is out of step with the American people. So a lot of people need to get on step, apparently. What do you think about that? Arlen Specter, I think it's going to be an interesting situation because, again, mostly with the filibuster, they'll probably be able to get some things passed in the Senate, but I don't believe that he's going to rubber stamp everything that the administration plans to do. This doesn't seem that way to me. He seems too much of a free spirit to really just latch on to party lines. Speaking of the presidency, and I know we're flying through a bunch of things, which all can be commented on. And if you have something else that you want to talk about, I'm more than willing to do that as well. But these are just the things that kind of popped up in my mind, and I think Steve might have even a few more for me that I'd be glad to comment on. But this Air Force One situation in New York City, I think if you don't know, if you weren't paying attention, Air Force One flies across Manhattan for a photo opportunity. They had to update the Air Force One photo. So, which, I mean, who knew it needed to be updated, but okay. I was looking at Drudge Report. They said that photo opportunity cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $383,000 to fly Air Force One through New York. So, if you're one of those folks that's counting every penny, that's what's going on there. They were looking for a photograph of Air Force One and the Statue of Liberty in the shot. So that's probably why the low-flying flight pattern happened. With the F-15 or F-16 following the plane. Now, people were very panicked by this situation. I think that I saw folks commenting, and there were 911 calls, obviously concerned. Somebody really dropped the ball, and I think in this particular situation, I think you're probably going to see a swift answer to what happened. Somebody didn't answer a phone. Somebody didn't tell the mayor of New York that this was going on. Somebody dropped the ball in the administration. And from what I understand, the president was livid about this because it certainly was not intended to be a situation that would have gotten out of control. Now, here's where the spin comes in. They say that if they hadn't flown the plane in New York, they likely would have flown the plane someplace else. That's understandable. Would we have the same type of reaction if the plane had flown over Baltimore? Would we be as concerned? And I guess the other thing about it is Air Force One. It is probably the most recognized aircraft in the world. It's big, it's got blue and silver on it. And, you know, I think people should easily be able to recognize that, even in Manhattan. This is my opinion.
Somebody should tell them about Photoshop.
Steve suggests Photoshop next time for the Obama administration. Might be a good idea. Is this Jill PSU? JLL PSU. How about doing a show from Camden Yards?
Lowe's?
You know, any excuse to go to Camden Yards, that would be a good deal. Now, would they have an afternoon game on a Wednesday?
Not at noon.
Yeah, that may be problematic. Although, I bet the bar is open at noon. Steve nods approvingly. So, okay, maybe that'll happen. Where do you think we should do our live stream from? Someplace in Baltimore, and I'm talking about like next week. You know, where should we go next week? Where would people join us and be a part of the live stream? So not only can you hear Mark and I with our opinion, maybe we can drag a few folks in and ask them a few questions, you know, have a little roundtable conversation. There is an afternoon game today, Sassy, yes, but we're already here at the Sun, so we can't pack up and leave. But next week is what we're trying to shoot for. So I'm open to ideas. You can send them now at BaltimoreSun.com. And I'd like, on any of these, the first 100 days, the swine flu, Senator Arlen Specter, Air Force One, you know, whatever you want to talk about, playoffs. How about I don't know how big a hockey fan. Apparently, people in Baltimore were watching hockey over the last few days. The Caps wrap up their series and move on to the second round of the playoffs. They've kind of been in futility for the last 10 years, kind of similar to the Orioles. But actually they're in the playoffs, which is a big difference. So congratulations to them if you're paying attention to that. This water main break in downtown Baltimore is an interesting situation. And if you go to the Baltimore Sun main page, after you check out the stream, you can find a pretty good article that talks about the age of the infrastructure of the city. Now, right on the front page is a great photograph of this pipe that's sticking out, and the article says water main break shows the city's crumbling infrastructure. You know, I think a lot of people tend to forget that the city is, you know, we're on the verge of being 200 years old, and some of these pipes have been down there for, I want to say in excess of 150 years, something like that. The city has had more than 5,000 water main breaks in the past 4 years. February, we had a 30-inch pipe under the 100 block of East Monument Street. That disrupted performances at Center Stage and closed sections of Calvert Street. And I have to say that, you know, we're not the only city that's dealing with this. It's happening all over the United States. According to the federal officials, ground is shifting. As the ground warms up, it puts stress on these aging pipes, and then the cracks start, and then the next thing you know is, you know, you get a break. Now, let me get the pipe situation correct. The cast iron pipes in older parts of Baltimore are as old as 100 years. Now, the newer pipes are 40 to 50 years old, which, can you say that's new? It looks like they say varying methods of installation and levels of pressure make it difficult to pin down the life expectancy of the pipes. And if they don't break, they can leak hundreds of thousands of gallons of water each day. And Public Works says the city loses enough water each day to fill the Baltimore World Trade Center. That's a lot of water. We could have a pool party for the entire city with that much water. Towson Tim chiming in. Tim wants to know, this is a good question, one I don't have an answer for, but it's a good question. He says water mains in Towson are breaking on a weekly basis as well. Does this affect the drinking water? I would imagine that it probably doesn't because, well, I guess it depends. Are the pipes broken after or before the water filtration, situation? Although I have to say, I don't know the answer to that, but I know that Baltimore's water in a taste test has performed very well over the last few years. It's in the top 10% of water around the country. Now they submit their water with other cities, and we seem to score pretty well. I did an interview about this a while back when I was on the radio, and apparently we've got some good water. So I don't know if we get anything extra when the pipe breaks, a little extra iron or something like that. I mean, water coursing through a 100-year-old iron pipe, I think there's something to say about that. Maybe we do need to keep an eye on that.
This just in.
Mm-hmm.
Deer Park and Poland Springs folks
Yes.
just said, yes, it affects the water. Absolutely. Buy bottled water.
Deer Park says buy a bottle of water. Now, it's interesting, the whole bottled water mystique. I know I enjoy bottled water just like anybody else, but usually out of convenience, I want a large bottle of water. I'm more of like a 1.5 liter, water person. If I go and buy a bottle of water, I don't get the fun size. I get a big bottle of water and I drink a lot of it. But the problem is the effect on the environment with the plastic bottle. So there are two things that are interesting about the bottled water. One, first of all, public water, there's nothing wrong with it. I would say as a whole, it's good, it's okay. Now, if you put the filtration system on it and you want more, purification in your own home, that's one thing. That's a choice that you make. But there's nothing wrong with the water that we drink. And then the other thing is, we're using all these plastic bottles. Where are those going to go? From a trash standpoint, if you're a green person, a reusable water bottle system may be a better situation. Sassy commenting again, thankful that she has a well. She's got her own well, which I don't know. Well water. Anybody have well water before? Doesn't well water have a little twang to it?
A little bit, a little mineral taste.
A little minerally.
Good for you.
What does that do to your lemonade though when you make or a half and half? Questions I can't answer. Anyway, we're doing the live stream here, of course, on the BaltimoreSun.com, and open line questions. If you have some questions you want to ask, I'll try to get to them as best I can. Just to wrap this up on the water situation, Department of Public Works says if we were trying to fix this water situation, the water, the sewer, and the stormwater systems, it would cost about $2.2 billion. $2.2 billion. Can we get that from the stimulus package? Actually, the city has looked for $700 million in this federal stimulus package, but has only received $12 million, which doesn't qualify as stimulus. That's understimulation. Now, the Public Works Department is looking to increase the city water bill by 9% to pay for the pipe repairs now. So that's the situation. I didn't put down the 100-year-old pipe, but will be forced to pay for it. That's the way things work sometimes. Any comments on the Baltimore Ravens and their first-round draft pick? What's his name?
Michael Orr.
Michael Orr. I always say his name incorrectly. Michael Orr, who is going to be an offensive lineman for the Baltimore Ravens, played at the University of Mississippi, has an incredible story of kind of overcoming the odds and making it to the NFL. All of this chronicled in a book. I'll have to find the title of the book and include it in the blog, but really interesting story. I don't know if you get too many feel-good stories in the NFL. It seems like, athletes tend to be overshadowed by the negative stories that are going on. So it's really cool to see a good story of a guy who achieved his accomplishments. So congratulations to Michael Orr being our latest Baltimore Raven. Here's a question about escalating gang violence in the harbor, Fells Point, etc. This is something that I've heard about being reported on actually quite a bit over the last couple of years. Violence that happens in areas that when you see people on the news, they say that we've never seen anything happen like that in this area. These things don't normally happen here. And I guess the thing that I've always found interesting about that is the fact that there are places where these things happen every day. And should they receive any less consideration or concern? Should we just blow off the fact that they happen there every day? Or should we address overall the situation in our city? Crime is crime. It doesn't matter whether it happens on Federal Hill or North and Long. It's crime. It shouldn't happen anywhere. So, I think it's an unfortunate situation for those that live in areas where crime is not, quote unquote, predisposed to happening. Maybe we should assess why does it traditionally not happen there and happen in some other places, and what kind of improvements can we make to policing to make sure that it doesn't happen in places that it happens all the time. So I think that's an important point to make. A reminder, the video will be on the blog later on today. How long are we doing? We got a little bit more time?
Yeah, we'll go a couple more minutes.
All right, we got a few more minutes so you can get your last comments in. And the video will be posted on the blog later today. Again, let me go into my diatribe about the blog. Mark and I enjoyed doing the blog, especially this aspect of the video content. I argue, and Steve does not dispute this, that I don't think that you'll find any other major newspaper that's still open in the United States or around the world, for that fact, that has a live stream with radio personalities participating in it. I dare you to find another newspaper someplace else that does that. I dare you. So I believe this is a first. I'm not saying it's a Guinness situation, but I'm saying that I think it's notable and worth mentioning. So the thing that makes it very good, obviously, is the feedback and the participation. So pass the word on every Wednesday, 12 noon, here at BaltimoreSun.com, and the blog is BaltimoreSun.com/Troy and Mark. We post occasionally, and we also link the video. So if someone misses the video, you want to tell them about it, you can tell them to go to the blog and check it out. If you want to watch it again early and often, I suggest that you do. And next week, again, post to the blog where you think we might go, and maybe we'll show up there. I think it would be fun to be to take this thing on the road. But look, I'm not interested in going anywhere where only one or two of you show up. We want some folks to show up. I think that's why I think the lunchtime thing would be great. So, you know, can we get a consensus on this? Can we all agree to meet somewhere and enjoy some fries and gravy, or some other Baltimore fare, a crab cake from Fadley's? I don't know where it's going to be, but we're open to suggestion, and I would like to do it next week. So, whatever you think is a possibility. Steve, did we cover everything? Is there anything else that you think?
Did a fine job, sir.
Any other topic I should riff off of before we get out of here? Anything I left unturned?
I think you covered it all.
I covered it all as much as I could.
All right.
Again, wash your hands. Swine flu is centered around people not being clean. If you go to the bathroom, wash your hands. If you're going to shake people's hands, make sure your hands are clean when you're interacting with them. If you sneeze, it just amazes me. I guess as you get older, you tend to see these things more often. Somebody sneezing near a soda machine. I was in a restaurant the other day. No cover, no, not even with the hand. No, just achoo! Just all in front of the machine. Hey, I want to drink a soda out of that. Do you mind? Can you, do one of these? Something like that? I think it's interesting that we had it right when we were little kids. And I blame this on Mom and your teachers. When you had a runny nose and you were a kid, what did you do? You used your sleeve. You'd wipe your nose, and you have a stream of snot on your shirt, looked like stripes. And then somebody said, no, you shouldn't do that. And now you start using your hand to cover your mouth. Bad move. We learned as little kids that we should use our arm instead of our hands. I'd much rather have a snotty sleeve than swine flu. So just keep that in mind. Live stream will be here next week, Wednesday, somewhere. And your comments on where we should go, looking forward to seeing those. And of course, go to the blog, baltimoresun.com/Troy and Mark. Everybody have a great week. Wash your hands. See you next week at noon. Sneeze. Oh, no. See ya.
Well done.